The Black Crowes would rise to prominence in the early 90s thanks to the 1-2 hit of their 1990 records Shake Yer Moneymaker and 1992's The Southern Harmony and Musical Companion. But along the way, they also created some bad blood with the bands they toured with, some of which they looked up to. That's what we're going to explore in today's video.
They just wanted to make sure that John was going to be gone before they came in.
Yeah, see, I don't know what I did. Chris and I are opposites. I was fat, he was thin.
Right.
He married Kate Hudson, I'd make her happy in bed.
Yeah. Hey now.
Early on in their careers, the Black Crowes had the attitude of being an anti-establishment band. It was in January of 1991 that the band was supposed to open for ZZ Top, all the way until May of the same year. The Black Crowes weren't happy that Miller Brewing were one of the corporate sponsors behind the tour, and in March of 1991 trouble started when frontman Chris Robinson quipped during one concert, according to the LA Times, and I quote, "This is live rock and roll being brought to you commercial free." It would be ZZ Top's manager, Houston-based management company Lone Wolf Productions, who warned Robinson to stop making comments during the band's set about the corporate sponsorship of the tour. The band's management went as far as to threaten to fire the group from the tour, which they did when Robinson didn't stop criticizing Miller's involvement. The band would be booted 2 nights into a 3-night stop in what was supposed to be their homecoming shows in Atlanta, Georgia. Robinson and his brother would appear on Rockline to give their version of events, as you can see here.
It's been a little over a week since you guys were asked to vacate the ZZ Top tour.
Oh, yeah. Where we're from, we call it getting fired.
Okay, you said it, I didn't. It's been about a week. You've had some time to think about it. What's your perspective now?
I don't know. Our perspective is the same thing, man. We got into this whole thing. Well, first off, I would just like to say for everyone who's heard about the whole thing, it's not about bands or anything really. This is more like a business type thing, like management and sponsors. And they were trying to censor what we were about, and we don't really dig that. We got into it because we wanted to play music, and not have anyone tell us what to do. So with that in mind, we just didn't dig the whole thing, and it turned out that they really had the guts to do it. I was pretty surprised. They threatened us, said, "Don't say it," and I said, "Really?" Isn't this the United States, man?
So you didn't actually think it was going to happen?
No, well, I kind of did when they started having guys on the side of the stage writing down what I was saying in between songs, like I was in high school or something. So it got a little silly, but, we signed up to go out and play some music in front of ZZ Top. We didn't sign up really to have people censor us and tell us how to be the Black Crowes. So, I guess it's all worked out for the best.
Another band the Black Crowes toured with on their first record was Aerosmith, who were experiencing a career resurgence. As part of the Pump Tour, the Black Crowes opened up a series of shows for the band, but the Black Crowes were quickly fired from the tour after their first show, as Chris Robinson stated here.
You get to the first gig, and of course, the most career-oriented minded group in the history of music, we opened the show with a new song we had just written or something, and if I remember correctly, I was crawling around on the stage with a big knife, stabbing it into the stage. I don't know what we were doing. But I guess the drummer for Aerosmith watched the opening of our set and immediately went back and contacted their management and had us fired. Idea of those inspirational things. So when you're starting, you know what I mean? You don't... It's new, that's the first time we're in arenas, and I guess we bit off more than we could chew on the first night, but cooler heads prevailed, and we finished the tour.
This wasn't the only issue, as Robinson was disappointed to learn that Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler, who was one of his heroes growing up, used backing tapes during live shows. Robinson would tell Rolling Stone, "If you're an entertainer and you take it seriously, you entertain with your natural abilities. You go on stage and take a chance like everyone else. People say to us, 'Man, I heard some bad notes in your set tonight.' Well, F&A right, you heard some bad notes. You saw a real band tonight, didn't you?" Chris's brother Rich would defend Chris, telling Rolling Stone, "All Chris said is he's disappointed because great bands he's loved all his life were made to resort to using tapes in concert. It disappointed him, made him look at the world and think, man, things are effed up, the music industry is just for shit." But things seemed to be patched up years later, when Chris revealed he had run into Joe Perry in Boston when they were both staying at the same hotel. He would end up playing on Perry's solo record at the time called Switzerland Manifesto. This is perhaps my favorite feud. This one dates back to the mid-90s when the Black Crowes were touring with Blues Traveler as part of the Horde Festival. The Horde Festival was started by Blues Traveler as a sort of answer to Lollapalooza, which they felt was too commercialized, and it would run from 1992 to 1998. It was the 1995 incarnation of the festival that the Black Crowes headlined, and while the bands initially seemed to get along, their dirty laundry would be aired years later on The Howard Stern Show, when both John Popper of Blues Traveler and the Black Crowes were booked the same morning. Popper appeared on the air first, and while a lot of the interview dealt with his recent weight loss after undergoing a stomach stapling operation, it was towards the end of his appearance that Stern mentioned that the Black Crowes were coming on next and asked Popper about the reported feud between the two parties. Popper claimed he didn't know why Chris Robinson hated him and brought up an incident where they were both sitting in with Warren Haynes at the Fillmore, and Haynes took Popper to the side and told him that Robinson was in, and I quote, a real mood, and told Popper that he wouldn't come on stage until he left. Popper would go on to say that Robinson was, and I quote, the only real dick he's ever met in rock and roll. Stern's producer Baba Booey would shuffle back and forth between the green room where the Black Crowes were waiting and the studio where Popper was talking to Stern. After Popper left, Robinson would come into the studio and tell Howard that he thought Blues Traveler were, and I quote, a novelty act. Here's some of the exchanges that went down that morning. Here.
He just came from Memphis, where like we've been playing, so I've been trying to not have him see me because he won't come out unless if I'm there. So
really,
I don't know. You know, he's just got to pull up his button. I watched him yell at a fan just because he interrupted him.
They just wanted to be. They wanted to make sure that John was going to be gone before they came in.
Yeah. See, I don't know what I did. But cool.
And somebody did mention that you should have had your mouth sewed shut instead of your stomach.
Right.
Wow. What did you say?
Opposites. You know, I was fat. He was thin.
Right.
He married Kate Hudson. I'd make her happy in bed.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, Nepper, I had no idea you got
Care that much. I just don't care to be around him. I don't like his band. I don't like what they do. I don't like him. We did the Horde tour. We did the Horde tour in 1995, which was like their thing. But that year, it was the most successful concert tour. We were on it. And afterwards, he ran his mouth about our band. It's like, hey, Haas, play the harmonica. Enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to hear that about... I mean, it was one thing for us to go play with a subpar group like that anyway. You know what I mean? But we got paid so handsomely, I could put up with listening to them from my luxury dressing room every night.
Popper popped his mouth off too much.
What he said was that they compromised their integrity by having us, and that we were only there because we were a strong ticket seller in the southern markets.
It seemed like it was all water under the bridge years later as Popper appeared on SiriusXM and talked about running into Chris at the airport.
And it sounds like you patched things up a little bit with Chris at the end.
Yeah, well, you know, I ran into him in an airport a while ago, and he seemed like he'd gotten older.
Yeah,
maybe it was the divorce. Yeah, see, I feel like I've gotten older too, but maybe he's just not holding on to that stuff. I think part of the issue with us and the Crowes were when they were hanging out with us, they were really doing, it was kind of dark. You know, they were getting into some drugs that weren't.
And we're talking about like heroin, or
I can't say because I wasn't there. You know, like the thing is, the one they liked hanging out with a lot was Bobby, our bass player, and he was really getting, you know, he was pretty serious about that stuff too. So it seemed to me that it was just like this time when they were going through a lot of stuff. And you know,
you guys bore the brunt of some of that.
Maybe some of the anger of that time.
Well, because you know, I emailed Steve Gorman from the Crowes. I don't really know him, but I emailed him. He responded. I was like, "Hey, we're talking to John Popper. I want to get. Do you have any insight to this?"
Yeah, does he?
And he goes, "No, man." He wrote me a really cool email just saying like, "Nah, like I don't know." He goes, "I don't know," and he's going through his own drama with that band.
That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again on Rock and Roll True Story sticker.